We've got hybrid cars, hybrid meetings, and now hybrid lenses? What's that all about? Let's talk about it on today's episode of
Ask David Bergman.
Hey there everybody, welcome back. Here I am, as always, answering your photography questions right here on Adorama TV. Today's question comes from Julia I, who wants to know, since we have cameras that can shoot stills and video, do we need to invest in hybrid lenses? It's a great question, Julia, and thanks for sending it in. Hybrid is a relatively new term when it comes to lenses, so let's talk about what it actually means and whether you might want to upgrade. Now, for a long time, there was a pretty clear line between still photography and video. As still shooters, we've always had a huge variety of cameras and lenses designed just for us. If you were making professional video, you used a cinema camera with cinema lenses. Those have their own features and are usually much bigger, heavier, and more expensive. Still and video shooters didn't really overlap. There was a big line down the middle, and never the twain shall meet. We had different jobs and different tools, and that worked out just fine for a very long time. But things have changed. As Julia mentioned, most of today's still cameras can also shoot video, and that's not just a gimmick. These cameras can produce truly high-end cinematic films. 1 minute you're making 45 megapixel stills, and the next you flip a switch to shoot 8K video. Now, camera bodies adapted to video pretty quickly, but lenses, most of them were still built primarily for still photography. That's why companies like Canon started designing new options for people who do both. These hybrid lenses are made for creators who switch between stills and video on the same camera, and they're designed to perform equally well in both situations. Now, just to be clear, to set this up, I am a proud Canon Explorer of Light, and Canon gear is what I use every single day. I'm going to be focusing on their lenses in this video because they're currently the only ones using the word hybrid to describe this new category of lenses, and that's what Julia asked about. But the idea behind it isn't exclusive to Canon. Other brands are starting to build lenses with similar goals in mind, even if they're not using that same label. Now, as of right now, mid-2025, Canon has 6 hybrid lenses. There are 4 primes, 20 millimeters, 24, 35, and 50, and those all have fast f1.4 maximum apertures. And there are also 2 zoom lenses, the 24-105 f2.8, and the newest version of the 70-200, also f2.8. Now, all 6 of those lenses are top-of-the-line RFL series lenses. Now, even if those weren't hybrid lenses, they would still be natural next steps for Canon. They're upgraded versions of older designs. Now, there's already a 50mm 1.2, and it is incredible, but it's bigger, heavier, and about $1,000 more than the new 1.4. The zooms are in another league. The 24-105 is the only lens in the world with that zoom range and a constant 2.8 aperture. A few years ago, I made a video about choosing between a 24-70 2.8 and a 24-105 f4. With this new lens, you don't have to choose anymore. It's the best of both of those worlds. And the new 70-200, it's Canon's second RF 2.8 lens in that range, but the new one has a few key differences. It has an internal zoom, which I've always preferred, and it works with teleconverters. I've used the 1.4 converter on this lens, and it's still tack sharp. And this might be a minor thing, but it's important to me. For the first time, you can get the 70-200 in white or black. When I'm photographing concerts, I wear all black and I try to blend in with the crew. A black lens does help me with that. Same thing if you're working on a film or a TV set. You don't want anything bright that'll draw attention to you. It's also great for things like hockey, where a white lens can reflect off the plexiglass and ruin your shot. So hybrid lenses are already great for still photography, but they also include some features made specifically for video. That's why they're called hybrid. The first thing you might notice is the smooth adjustable aperture ring. In video mode, this lets you open or close the iris without any clicks. Still shooters are used to changing aperture in full or third stops, which happens in hard steps. But during a video clip, that can cause a visible jump in exposure. With the smooth ring, you can adjust mid-shoot without calling any attention to it. It is interesting that right now, the smooth iris ring only works in video mode. I'm not sure if that's something that can change in firmware, but it's worth pointing out. It doesn't really bother me because just by setting the ring to A and activating the iris lock switch, it works like any other lens, and I can control my aperture from the camera when I'm shooting stills. Another key difference with hybrid lenses is how the autofocus behaves during video recording. Traditional still photo lenses are designed to snap into focus as fast as possible. That's exactly what you want for stills. They're quick, precise, and responsive. But in video, that kind of fast autofocus can be a distraction. The lens might jump between subjects or make small, visible corrections that pull the viewer's attention away from the story. Hybrid lenses are just tuned differently. The primes use dual nano USM along with Canon's new VCM or voice coil motors. That combo delivers focus transitions that are smooth, gradual, and virtually silent. Instead of snapping from one point to another, they glide into focus much more naturally, almost like a manual rack focus. It makes your footage feel more cinematic, and since the motors are so quiet, you won't hear any of that movement on your audio track. One thing you will notice with the primes is that when they're not attached to the camera, something inside the lens feels kind of loose. That's totally normal. It's just how the motors are built. As soon as you power on the camera with that lens attached, everything locks into place. I think everyone kind of freaks out the first time they pick one up. I know I certainly did, but there's absolutely nothing to worry about. Now, the zooms don't use VCM, but they still have dual nano USM for fast, quiet autofocus in both still and video modes. You can also add Canon's optional power zoom adapter, which gives you extra control for smooth zooms or remote operation. That's especially useful in studio or broadcast setups. Now, another big feature is suppressed focus breathing. That's when your image appears to zoom in or out slightly as you change focus. You probably won't notice it when shooting stills, but in video, it can be distracting and make the framing feel unstable. If you're pulling focus from one subject to another, the scene shouldn't look like it's subtly shifting size at the same time. Hybrid lenses are designed to minimize that effect, giving your footage a more professional, controlled look that's closer to what you get from those high-end cinema lenses. Now, another feature that video shooters will appreciate has to do with focus performance while zooming. True cinema lenses are parafocal, which means that as you zoom in or out, focus stays locked on your subject. That's tricky to achieve optically, which is one of the reasons those lenses are so darn expensive. Canon's hybrid zooms use electronic parafocal technology. It's a bit of a mouthful, but what that means is they rely on those dual nano USM motors to detect and correct for focus shift as you zoom. That means you could push in from wide to tight without using autofocus, and your subject stays sharp the whole time. Or you can zoom in to check critical focus, then zoom back out and know that your subject will still be sharp. It's really the next best thing to a true parafocal lens at a fraction of the cost. Now, one more thing worth mentioning about Canon's hybrid lens lineup is the consistency between them, both optically and physically. Optically, they all share the same high-end coatings and image quality, so you get consistent color and contrast no matter which one you use. That's especially helpful if you're switching lenses mid-project or shooting with multiple cameras. Your footage is going to match more easily, and color grading becomes much simpler because you can apply the same LUT across the board. Now, they also all have 11-blade apertures, which means the bokeh is going to look similar from lens to lens. Physically, the zooms are very close in size and weight, and they share the same filter thread. Same thing with the primes. The zooms are similar, and the 4 primes are similar. That might not be a big deal if you're shooting just handheld, but if you're using a gimbal or a rig of some kind, being able to swap lenses with minimal rebalancing can be a real time saver. Now, the lenses also share the same control layout. That means the zoom, the focus, and the control rings are all in the same place on the lenses, which helps with muscle memory and just lets you work faster and more efficiently. Hey, quick sidebar, if you're getting any value out of my videos, I hope you'll hit that like button, subscribe to the Adorama YouTube channel, and tap that bell icon so you'll get notified when new episodes go live. It really does help us all out, and make sure you don't miss any new videos as they come up. Also, if you've got photography questions you want me to answer, just go to askdavidbergman.com and fill out the form on that site. I just might pick your question to answer right here on a future show. So after all of that, the question Julia asked is simply, do you need hybrid lenses? Well, that depends. If you're a still shooter who only dabbles in video occasionally, then the thought process is just the same as any other lens purchase. Does it offer a feature that helps you create the images that you envision? Or maybe it helps you make some more money. That's always a good thing. If it does those things, go for it. For me, those 2 zoom lenses are a no-brainer. The black 7200 is next level sharp and works with a teleconverter, which helps me extend my reach without cropping. And like I said earlier, that 24-105 2.8 is the best of both worlds between the 24-70 2.8 and the 24-105 f4. The only negative I could find on that lens is that it's significantly bigger and heavier than the f4 version, and it's a bit tougher to fit in my camera bag. If I don't need to shoot 2.8 on a particular job, especially if I'm traveling and really watching what I'm bringing with me, I'll bring the f4 instead. Now the primes, those are a tougher call for me. I already have the 51.2, so I'd only get the 1.4 if I wanted to lighten my camera bag a little bit. I bought the 35-1.4 when it came out and recently used it on a remote camera on stage at a Luke Combs show. The autofocus had no problem locking onto Luke mugging for the camera with a beautiful, smooth background. I'm also planning to pick up the 20mm soon, just because I want it. I can't really justify it any other way. It's just a great focal length and I really want that prime, so I'm going to buy it. Now, if you're doing more hybrid work, having lenses optimized for both stills and video can definitely make your life easier. Whether you're shooting behind-the-scenes content, social clips, or full cinematic projects, you won't have to worry about focus breathing, lens noise, or exposure jumps ruining your footage. Hybrid lenses aren't just a buzzword. They're a real practical solution for the way modern photographers and creators work. And while Canon is leading the way with this kind of hybrid lens design, they probably won't be the only ones for long. More and more brands are realizing that still and video shooters are often the same people, and I think we're going to see a lot more lenses built with both in mind. Even if video isn't your main thing right now, it's a smart way to future-proof your gear for video without compromising your still photography. Hope that helps. Now, if you haven't made the switch to Canon's RF system yet, if you're still shooting EF, check out the video I did earlier this year about EF versus RF lenses. Hopefully that'll help you decide if it's time for you to upgrade. Thanks again for watching Adorama TV, and I'll see you next time right here on Ask David Bergman.